Say you have a thought that says, hey, I don't really feel like it today. Okay, well, that's a thought, and you might think, well, this is me. Or if you ask yourself, well, why do I not feel like it today? Right? What would be the opposite version of that thought? Hey, Justin here, coming at you with a really fun but really powerful lesson how to help you identify whether or not your thoughts are creating negative situations for yourself and you don't even know it. So I'm going to explain what that means, how to catch it, how to rework it, and very simple, tactical, actionable exercises that you can implement today so you can start to live life on your terms. So it's going to be through a concept called personas. All right. So I'm going to explain what personas are, why you should care, and then how to rework them with some examples. So I'm going to start with a study that was done where they brought in a bunch of wine people to do a wine tasting. And what this researchers did is they gave people 3 different bottles of wine. And they said, if one bottle is worth $10, one bottle is at $45, and the other one's $90 for the bottle. There was actually a couple more, but for this, I'm only picking 3. And what they did is they had them all taste the wine. And while they're tasting the wine, they wanted to think about, they were asking them which one do they enjoy more, which one was better wine. And they hooked them up to MRI machines to measure the brain activity. And what they found consistently was the $90 bottle of wine provided a better experience for them. But what none of them knew is the exact same wine for all 3 bottles. The only difference was the perceived value of that bottle of wine because it was labeled at a higher price, right? So this is a simple example of personas. So when you think about what a persona is, this is a label that you attach to things. And where a lot of people struggle in their life is they have a lot of thoughts and they're flowing in and out every day and they think they're their thoughts, but the reality is these are just thoughts. It's what you do with those thoughts and what meaning you attach to those thoughts that ultimately determine what you do with them and your actions and your life. So what I want you to think about is the thoughts that you have every day and changing the thought that, hey, these are my thoughts. These are just thoughts that pass by. Okay. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a thought that says, hey, I don't really feel like it today. Okay, well, that's a thought, and you might think, well, this is me. Or if you ask yourself, well, why do I not feel like it today? Right? What would be the opposite version of that thought? Like, no, I always feel like it, or I always find a way. Right? So if you think about the differences between those 2 thoughts, that's how you can identify what are limiting thoughts and what are empowering thoughts. So what I want you to do in this exercise is the first thing that you're going to do is identify the thoughts that align with the best version of yourself. Okay? So write them down and identify that. So take a few minutes and just say, hey, the person that I aspire to be, the best version of me, this version of me, this is what they believe, this is what they think, this is what they do. And take some time and write this down. The more specific, the better. And think about different situations. I don't make excuses. I always find a way. I always get it done. I always show love and empathy for my people. I always reach out to someone and make them a priority when they need my help and assistance. Right? What are the things that the 10 out of 10 version of you would be doing, thinking, acting, speaking? What would they say? How would they communicate? How would they show up? Write that down because that's going to help you determine the persona that we want to focus on and feed life into. Okay. Now, after you write the persona and the beliefs and how they think and act of the good version, now we want to do the bad version. Okay. Now, the bad version, just to make it simple, the reason why I start with all the positives is then by default, everything that's not a positive is a negative. So you're going to write the opposite. You're going to write the opposite of what you wrote for the 10 out of 10 version of you, the person that you aspire to be. Okay? How does this person think? How does this person act? What are the type of words that they use? How do they show up? Oh, they make excuses. They don't put energy into relationships. They don't finish projects on time. They don't do what they say they're going to do. They don't look out for other people. They steal from others, right? What are all these negative things that this person or version that is out there? How are they, right? And be specific, because it's important, because we have to label them and break them apart, okay? And what I mean by that is, and this is why it's so important, is when you think about the thoughts, they're just passing by. And we all have thousands of thoughts every single day. The question is, what do we do with them? And the first step to helping you take power over the thoughts that you're experiencing and reworking them and putting empowering thoughts in front of you and disregarding limiting thoughts is to label them accordingly. So that's why we're putting them in these buckets. So you're going to write out the positive, then you're going to write the negative. Then after that, you're going to label them. Now, here's the fun part of the exercise. You're going to label this version of you, okay? And what I want you to think about labeling this is you want to think about words that trigger emotional response for you. So I'll give you an example. Let's say your name's Adam. And when you think about all the positive things that Adam thinks, does, speaks, whatever it is, that's awesome, Adam. Every time we have an experience where Adam thinks like this, or a thought comes to Adam, or an action that Adam does, everything that's aligned with this version of Adam, that's awesome, Adam, right? And pick a word that triggers emotional response for you. But for this example, we're using awesome, Adam. But on the other side, we're going to label the bad version of Adam as asshole Adam. We don't like asshole Adam. Asshole Adam prevents Adam from living life on his terms, right? So you're labeling awesome Adam and asshole Adam. So everything, all the thoughts, actions, desires, all the things that you do, label them into which buckets they fall into, right? Because you already took the time to write these lists, then you label them, right? And this is where it gets fun, because what you'll start to notice is when you have thoughts, both empowering and limiting, you're going to say, oh, that's awesome, Adam. Oh, that's asshole, Adam. And you identify these little things, and this is where it starts to get fun. So then after you go through that, what you're going to do is simply pay attention. So here's what I mean by pay attention. Over the next week, is have a notebook by your side, working, walking, wherever you're at. Just keep a little journal. And all I want you to do is when the thoughts come in that are empowering or limiting, just take a mental note, write them in the notebook, right? So that's step one, where it's like, hey, awesome, Adam thought this thing about delivering projects on time. Or asshole Adam showed up and said this. And by you simply starting to pay attention to those things, you'll start to pay attention to the breakdown of the thoughts that you experience and where they fall into. And a lot of times when I'm meeting with people that are struggling in their career, struggling in their life, they're not living up to their potential, is because 90% of their thoughts are on this negative side and only 10% are on the empowering side. And the problem with that is your thoughts create your words, and your words speak into the actions that you take every single day. And your actions determine the life that you live. So step one is paying attention to the thoughts that you're experiencing and starting to identify them. And bonus is, if you start to identify those limiting thoughts, then you start to think, okay, how do I counteract that thought? So if you have a limiting thought that says, hey, I don't feel like it today, I put in a lot of work yesterday, I'm going to take the day off. And you identify that the limiting thought, the empowering thought could say, no, we don't make excuses. We always find a way. Let's do it, right? So when you think about them counteracting and you're just starting to pay attention to those things, then you could start to rewire how you think and perceive things. And this is extremely powerful. So if you want to improve your experience in life, start to think about the thoughts that you're experiencing every day, label them accordingly, and then from doing that, you're going to really start to think, okay, how are you wired, and how much work do you need to do to rewire the thoughts that come into your life every day? So I hope this is helpful. My name is Justin J. Johnson. I'm the founder of the Beautiful Savage Sales Academy. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Enjoy. Go burn it down.